that really inspires me is Anthony Grafigna. He's my grand big, so he's in my family, so we got to know each other through that. And he's just a really good friend and supportive brother, and to see the way that he treats his brothers is really inspiring to me because he's always very supportive and he's been such a good friend to me.
He always speaks his mind in the meetings, which I really appreciate. Even if I share the same sentiment but I'm maybe a little nervous saying it, he'll just go out and do it, which inspires me to do the same thing.
So my little is Anthony Grafigna. Couldn't be prouder. We share an affinity for memes and shitposting. The thing that I saw in Anthony was just an incredible dedication and willingness to put in the hard work that you need to really make a band work, make a band survive. So he served with me as a manager in the pep band.
I think he was members of my class. Because I feel like at this point, I owe so much to them that I really could not see myself without them in several years. I saw, all the different classes, taking pictures at 3rd degree, and I thought about, where am I going to be in 3-4 years when I'm graduating, right? I saw myself with the IOTA class taking pictures at our last 3rd degree, and it was just I don't see how I could be without them at this point. We've grown so close over just one semester. They all, at some point, just made me feel I could not leave this. This is something I have to commit to, or else I'd lose this amazing friendship with people that I otherwise would not have. Gracie is super sociable and energetic. Jam is...
I saw a scroll. Sorry.
I don't want to say Jam is Jam, but Jam is Jam. Matt is very quiet. Ethan's old. Ethan's old. But he brings wisdom to the IOTA class. And then again, I'm here watching everything burn and then loving it. After MC classes, we would often get lunch together at IV, and we got to know each other really well that way. We see each other, on campus, and we basically 9 times out of 10 the greeting is scream. So we see each other and we scream, and we're just I know you.
I would say the most fun thing about being in the ADA class was probably the Saturday morning classes, because afterwards we would go to Steast and we would swipe in and just eat ungodly amounts of food and talk about oh, we're so excited to be brothers, are they gonna like us? And just sharing those moments with people that I did not know necessarily going into it, but then getting to know them more, and we always had that to look forward to, even though we had to wake up early on Saturdays. But then next to that is when we were in class with Christoph once, we were learning about the different founders of Kappa, and one of them was William Scroggs, and Chloe Fisher just leaned over to me and just goes, "Scroggs and the boys." And I just had the giggles for an hour, and Christoph was like, "What are you laughing at? What are you laughing at?" And I just couldn't even explain it. I was like,
Okay, the first person who inspires me most is Dana Walker.
Michael!
Dana joined at the same time I did with the Zeta class, but she came in knowing almost no one in the chapter, so it really impressed me and inspired me how quickly she made connections with people and made good friends, and then within a year, she was elected the Vice President of Service. So to go from not knowing anyone to having one of the most important roles and kind of joining more bands and getting more involved, and being at a point where she's involved in all the NE bands right now, that's really inspiring to me, just in a musicality standpoint and as a leader.
Probably the most influential person in the chapter for me is our chapter sponsor, Allison Betzold.
She's a fantastic person to work with. I couldn't think of anybody I would respect more.
She's been a great conductor in 2 bands, and I really appreciate her enthusiasm towards music, and it's really helped me look deeper into the music that she gives us.
Alexandra, one-of-a-kind Bergeroy. She is just an incredibly talented musician. She arranges a ton of pieces for pep band. We share an instrument, the mellophone. She's just one of my dearest friends, truly.
She's fantastic. I don't know how she does it. She has such an energy that I have never seen in anybody else. She will move mountains to get to a pep band game. She is so dedicated to being there and being part of that experience. And I looked up to her so much for that. She 100% put all she could into that, and she, on top of that, she's doing chemical engineering. So she's balancing academics and band with grace and finding time to devote herself to all these games, and on top of that, being enthusiastic at all of them. It's infectious.
Justin Brown is quite the character. He is known as that tuba guy by anyone who's not in band.
I'm tuba guy. Don't forget.
His energy and his uniqueness, his quirkiness, and bringing that to pep band, bringing that energy, and his incredibly dedicated work to the pep band as pep band president really helped us succeed as a band, move things forward. And when he was playing tuba in pep band at games and there was a brief moment of silence, you just hear his voice shouting out something ridiculous and we'd all get a good laugh out of it or a good groan out of it.
So editing has really inspired me. I think, yeah, whenever something is needed, you're always like right on top of it. Like I remember at the last meeting, you were like, oh, or someone was like, we need paper for the votes, and you're like, I have the paper. And I was like, wow, that's great. Even if we don't need it, like just in case, with everything you had to deal with today, with the, the convocation ceremony, just like being the point of contact, being really reliable, getting all this stuff done.
Clay Oroko.
No, you're doing my thing. No.
He was the president, the founding president. One of my memories was actually kind of an emotional one for me because we were about to become initiated and I was having doubts because I didn't know if I was doing it for the right reasons. I wasn't sure if I was as committed as the other brothers because they worked so hard. I didn't feel like I lived up to that standard. And I called Clay and I was like crying. I was like, I don't know if I am like good enough for this. And he was so great. He was reassuring, he was comforting, he made me feel so much better. He reassured me that like I was absolutely doing it for the right reasons and I shouldn't feel that way. That was really inspirational for me, that he was just so compassionate and warm in that moment.
Erica was president while I was an MC. Her incredible dedication to the bands and her passion for music were paramount and are exactly what it means to me to be a brother. The fact that she planned her calendar so far in advance that if you wanted to hang out with her, you had to book a time 3 months in advance. It just goes to show how much she had on her plate, but she pulled it off so successfully. And she was able to give us as MCs such an amazing experience. And I had the pleasure of talking to her, and we ended up having like a 3-hour-long conversation when we had originally intended to have like a half-hour-long interview. We were just talking about music, especially Holst's Planets, because we both love that piece. And she inspires me so much that I actually named myself after her. My middle name is Erica.
And Adam Peruzzi, he was president of KK Psi at the same time that I was president of the pep band, and we really worked closely a lot to try and determine the relationship between the chapter and the pep band and the direction that we really wanted to take KK Psi going forward as it was integrating with NU bands. I think he has wisdom way beyond his years, and I always appreciated his perspective on anything that we would talk about. There was one time where we were busking, and there were children who were just really interested in seeing the band. And Adam got his trombone, and he got down on like one knee, and he was just like playing trombone, and this kid is just staring there, just like.
Chris Marsh, I think, has also inspired me. He was president when I joined, and I just thought he led the group really well. And I even, had some issues with attendance, and he brought me in to talk about it, and I just really appreciated how he like sat me down and was, like, yeah, this is a problem, but like we're here to help you with it. You know, we want you to be a brother. We want you to succeed. And I really appreciated that.
He was actually my big both times. He didn't give up on me. He's been a really kind of centralizing figure as far as how I envision a leader. He was our president last year, and we went through some rocky things. It was a challenge. Being, you know, both a big and a little, and council members that had to work together and that occasionally got into disputes. But, you know, having him be this very strong leadership force really shaped a lot of my early experience in Kappa.
So my big is TJ Fujiyoshi. And in the beginning, I was very scared of him because he was on pep band council, and he would come around and be like, name please, name please, name please. And it took a while to learn my name, but when he became my big, he took me out to get pad thai once, and we just realized that we had so much in common. Like, we grew up in very similar towns, and we had different like views on things, but it all kind of lined up. I have big brothers, but he feels like my big brother. Like, I can go to him with anything. He sends me funny pictures all the time, and I really have like a strong relationship with TJ.
Sam's wonderful because she very quickly found her place in Kappa Kappa Psi, and that was really impressive to me, how quickly she kind of set roots down, made great friends, and instantly wanted to give back as a leader and do her part in making the chapter better.
My little is Justin Kaludi, and me and him have also formed a really close bond through being big and little, and I'm really happy to have gotten to be his big and get to know him, and he's one of my really close friends now.
My big was Victoria. She is actually the student conductor for NU Pep Band, and for a while I thought she was not a student because I had only seen her conducting, but she was really great throughout the whole process. She gave me a lot of advice. She was always really supportive, and it was really nice having, like, especially someone who had so much experience with the bands. It was really nice having her as my big.
Aiden is so cute. He's the best. I love him. My favorite memory with Aiden is probably we were at a hockey game, and it like went into overtime. It was like the longest game ever. But I got chicken tenders in the middle of it, like during one of the intermissions, and he just looked so sad. So I just like tapped him on the shoulder and I was like, do you want a chicken tender? And he was like, I do. And then we just shared chicken tenders, and we like talked about the game and just talked about like life and stuff. So that was when I was like, oh, like he is my little, and I honestly like have so much love in my heart for him. I want nothing but the best. Like, so proud of him.
Everybody in Nu Theta kind of knows him at this point. My big is Greg Price. He's a member of the beta class, also an alto sax player. Yeah, he's gotten the reputation of just being like one of the star fraternity brothers. He was always so dedicated to the fraternity while he was active.
Greg was someone who was always known as being like the humble person in the background, but always doing everything, always like helping out more and being the first one there to help set up and the last one there when you're cleaning up. Is that kind of person. So he was a really great role model for me when I was joining because he just showed me a lot about how to have that attitude and that mindset.
My littles are Christoph Dow and Brian Began. I always get updates from them, and it's always amazing because both of them are very involved. I mean, Christoph is the BPM right now. Brian is the treasurer for Kappa. He is the pep band secretary, and it's just always amazing to see these updates from all of them and just seeing how they're doing and just knowing that this is my legacy. This is something that I don't say I like to help them because they were phenomenal people on their own, but I like still just being able to say that these are my family, and being able to just see that is amazing.
Jack's wonderful because he's very similar to Greg in my opinion, and he does so much but doesn't expect anything for it. He works so hard, but he always has a really great attitude, and that inspires me a lot when I see him doing that, and it makes me want to be better. I'm just always impressed by his positive attitude, his ability to kind of go above and beyond, to do the little things, but also be involved with a lot in the chapter. He's done a lot on the social committee and kind of really stepped up, which impressed me. He's also just a great role model and a great example. So I'm always really happy to see him doing great things, which he does a lot of.
Christoph. He ran all of the Road to Wisdom classes. He did like so much for our class. He really helped like nudge us in the right direction so many times. And yeah, you just made a big difference in our class.
He's the most hardworking person I think I've ever met. He put in so much work when he was vice president of membership, and I was on membership committee with him. So he was constantly trying to give us more experience. So he would let me teach classes. He would let me help organize recruitment week. And I just have never met a person who cares so much about what they're doing, where they're willing to do anything for it. Like, you could text Christoph at 4 a.m. and be like, hey, how's membership committee? And he would tell you a paragraph about it. He's just so passionate about what he was doing, and that really showed and like inspired me.
So obviously my big jewel, she was also very huge into band. She was, I believe, secretary of pep band. She did pretty much everything. If there's a role, she had it, and she really did teach me how to be a brother. On top of that, I mean, Nathan Stewart was also a huge inspiration for me. I mean, looking at him do the horn swings and looking at how crazy he goes, like, that really made me want to up my game. So that was that. But again, he's also just an amazing brother and does service really well too.
So my big was Luke Miller, star killer. Luke is a fantastic person, just incredibly caring. He helped me through a lot of questions that I had when I was deciding whether or not I was actually going to go through with joining. Just incredibly friendly and warm and welcoming.
I would say Jared is just as inspirational because of the hard hours that he puts in and the clear commitment, and like, he just has given everything, his all, to this fraternity.
Ted inspires me so much. He has such dedication to the band. His energy at games is paramount. And his musical talent on the saxophone, beautiful. I wish I could do those beautiful jazzy improv solos that he does. And he inspires me to just be freer and more flowing with my music and explore new things. And also, he helps bring up the energy, especially at basketball games when there feels like there's a lot of dead air and dull time. We're just standing there right next to the court, and he helps keep us pumped up. So he's an inspiration.